Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Once upon a time, a kind queen sat by a window of black ebony as snow fell. She pricked her finger, and 3 drops of red blood fell on the white satin cloth. Seeing the blood dripping from her finger, Princess looked out the window at the falling snow and whispered,
"I wish for a child white as snow and her lips red as blood."
Soon, Princess Snow White was born in a magnificent palace, in a land of high mountains and blue lakes. Snow White was not only beautiful, but also very kind. But her mother was dead, and her father was married to another queen. She spent her days in the palace gardens, talking to the bluebirds. However, inside the palace, there was a dark room. This was the room of the queen, Snow White's stepmother. The queen was very beautiful, but her heart was cold like ice. She had a magic mirror made of silver. Every morning, the room was silent and dark. The queen walked to the mirror. She looked into the mirror and whispered,
"Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the most beautiful woman of all?"
For years, the mirror answered with a cold voice, "You are my queen." But one sunny morning, everything changed. The mirror sparkled and said,
"Your face is beautiful, my queen, it is true. But Snow White, she is now 1,000 times more beautiful than you."
The queen's face turned red, eyes turned green with anger. She called a hunter.
"Hunter, take her to the deep forest and make sure she never returns,"
she ordered.
"It will be done."
The hunter took Snow White to the forest. The trees were very tall, and their branches looked like long fingers. But the hunter was a good man. He looked at Snow White's kind eyes and said, "I cannot hurt you. Run away, hide in the forest." Snow White ran and ran. The forest was scary. She heard the hoo-hoo of owls and the crack of dry leaves. Suddenly, she saw a small light between the trees. She walked towards it and found a tiny cottage. Inside, everything was very small and very clean. Next to the wall, there were 7 small beds. Snow White was so tired that she put the beds together and fell into a deep sleep. In the evening, the sun went down behind the mountains. From the distance, a happy song started to play. 7 little men were walking back from the diamond mines. They carried small lanterns that glowed like stars. These were the 7 little dwarfs. They came home and saw the door open.
It's not right here.
They entered the house and stopped.
The table's thick.
"Look," said Leader, the oldest one with a long white beard. "Someone is sleeping in our beds." One by one, they looked at the sleeping princess. When Snow White woke up, she saw 7 pairs of kind eyes looking at her. Snow White is scared and worried. She told them about the evil queen. The dwarfs looked at each other and said, "You are safe here. You can stay with us, and we will protect you." Snow White accepts their offer, and the dwarves are very happy about this. Days passed, and Snow White was very happy with the 7 miners. Every morning, she cleaned their tiny wooden house. She cooked delicious soup in a big pot. In the evenings, they danced and sang happy songs by the warm fireplace. Snow White was no longer lonely. She had a new, loving family. Back at the palace, the queen looked at her mirror again.
If Snow White is still alive in the forest, and alive, right?
Her heart stopped when the mirror said Snow White was still alive. She decided to use a dark plan. She drank a dark potion. Her purple dress turned into old rags. Her face changed into an old woman's face and took a basket of apples. She walked to the miner's cottage. Snow White was alone. "Hello, dear," the old woman said with a thin voice. "Would you like a beautiful red apple? It is very sweet." Snow White remembered the miner's warning, but the apple looked perfect. Snow White took a bite of the red side. Suddenly, the world went dark. She fell to the wooden floor. The poisoned apple was too strong. When the miners came home, the house was silent. They found Snow White and cried for days. They could not bury her in the ground, so they made a glass coffin decorated with gold and flowers. They placed it on a high hill where the sun always shines. Years passed.
Snow White slept in the forest so deep.
One afternoon, a prince was riding his white horse through the forest. He saw the glass coffin sparkling under the sun. He climbed the hill and saw Snow White. She looked like she was only dreaming. "She is so beautiful," the prince whispered. He placed a kiss on the coffin. He asked the miners if he could take her to his castle so everyone could see her beauty. The miners agreed. Together, carried the coffin. One of them tripped over a large tree root. Bump! The coffin shook. Suddenly, the piece of poisoned apple flew out of Snow White's throat. Her eyelashes moved. She opened her eyes and saw the blue sky. Where am I? She asked. The prince took her hand and smiled.
You are safe with me.
The prince and Snow White went to the Golden Palace. They had a grand wedding with music, dancing, and thousands of lights. The 7 little dwarfs were the guests of honor. They danced all night, and from that day on, the forest was never scary again. They all lived happily ever after.
Subscribe to our channel to listen to new magical tales.
Bye!